Hello everyone, back tuning in to today's first video doing the third and final season 1 roundup for the autumn of 2016. Today we're going to get 9 long-range models together and see what the consensus is one last time for the autumn of 2016. Next weekend we're going to release the autumn forecast. We're going to put all the models together with the analogues. You know, been looking at the analogues over the past few weeks, but our good friend James Atquill has supplied us with. We're going to put it all together and create the autumn 2016 forecast for you next Sunday. So this is the final time we'll be looking at the models for this autumn. We're a couple of models short because I'm doing the update quite early in the month, actually, this month. We're without the APEC model. That doesn't update until around the 25th of the month usually. We're also without the Beijing Climate Centre. I'm not sure what's going on at the Beijing Climate Centre, but they haven't updated the long-range part of their model. The shorter-range month-ahead model is updating regularly, but the long-range seasonal part of their model that extends out 6 months and beyond has updated since June. So we didn't have it last month, we've not got it again. So far, anyway, for this month. If it does update, Beijing Climate Centre does update in the next week, then I'll include it in next week's video when we do the actual autumn forecast. So I'll keep an eye out for it, but so far, no sign of it, and we haven't had an update from Beijing Climate Centre season 1 since June. I'm sure it'll be back one day. Now, just say about the ads before I get on with the update. So there's links to articles on the pages. You have a browse visits and click through the link. You'll be helping us to pay for the website, and thanks very much for doing that. This video ads on most pages. They own the content when you watch it. Goes back up again. It's all have to pay. gasservice.com. Very excited about the update that's coming up this afternoon. I've been tweeting a little bit about this, posting on Facebook a little bit about this over the last day or so. We're doing something new this afternoon. I've had a look at the long-range seasonal model from the ECMWF. Now, you know the ECMWF short-range model is included in the videos all the time. A little known is that the ECM forecasting organisation has a long-range seasonal model. It's very, very restricted access to that model. If you want to see it yourself, you have to pay a very large amount of money, I believe. Now, a very kind person sent me a couple of days ago the August update from the ECMWF seasonal model. Sent me those charts a couple of days ago for the winter of 2016-17. Now, because the access to this model is so restricted, I can't show you those charts such as we do in this video. On the websites of all the long-range forecasting organisations for this update, and I'm showing you the charts as they're generated. I can't do that with the ECMWF because it's a very restricted access in terms of model. However, I have been allowed to recreate the charts that I've seen. So this afternoon, for the first time ever at gasservice.com, I'm going to show you my interpretation of the ECM seasonal model for the winter of 2016-2017. If it goes all right, then I'm hoping to be able to do this every month leading up towards the winter. So come back that afternoon. It's a bit of a thirst for gasservice.com. But getting on with the autumn update, there's no problems with you seeing any of these charts that are in this video for yourself. So most of the links to the websites that we're using for this video can be found on the links page. Do check those out if you would like to do so. Just say it's going to be a fairly long video, but I'll try to keep it as short as I can. It's going to be a bit shorter than normal because we're a couple of models down. It will be placed on the autumn updates page later today, probably this evening, and there'll be a written summary that goes with it. And remember, next week we've got the actual autumn 2016 forecast. Right, let's get on with it then. We're going to start off with the Russian model as we normally do. So all models that we see, should just say this, all models that you see in video for this month are going to cover the full autumn period. There's no messing around, there's no sort of tri-month periods that fall short or go beyond the autumn. Every model that you see is covering the full September to November autumn 2016 period. We're starting off with the Russian model. This goes from September to November 2016. We're going to start off with temperature probability. Very easy to work out what this one is going for. Generally above average temperatures there being predicted by the Russian model across many northern, western and indeed central parts of Europe. The trend in last month's update, should just say this, the trend last month was very much for a mild autumn, Atlantic driven. The models were differing a little bit about whether it would be wet or dry, whether we'd have a ridge building in from the Azores and from the south and keep it fairly dry, or whether it would actually be quite wet and stormy. So there was a little bit of difference with that, but the overall idea was it's going to be a mild autumn and pretty Atlantic driven. It looks like we're starting exactly where we left off last month with the Russian model going for above average temperatures. What about precipitation? And that's generally coming out wetter than average to the north and near normal to the south. Maybe a little bit drier than average being hinted to the south. So again, this does imply Atlantic driven. You would expect low pressure to be sent up here, probably a ridge down here, and the jet stream going through the country like that. Atlantic driven, mild, not overly wet autumn in the south, but wetter in the north. The Brazilian model next, these are 500 millibar heights. This always does things a little bit differently. With this one, the above average heights being forecast to be blue. So the blue colours are above average heights, that's high pressure, and sort of red, yellow, orange colours, they are below average heights, which is low pressure. What we see for the 500 millibar height anomaly forecast for the autumn is that we've got a big area of above average height sitting right over top of the country. So it implies a very settled autumn, this. The jet stream is being pushed well to the north, rather like that. We are on the mild side of the jet, so it would be a pretty mild autumn as well. The main thing with that, though, is that I would assume it would be really quite a dry autumn indeed, with a lot of anticyclonic influences. Temperatures generally coming out average to above average, so another model going for a warmer than average autumn this year. Precipitation, actually it is a bit wetter than average to the north, hints of being a bit drier than average out to west and southwest. So again, I think we've got this idea, it's like that height anomaly, we've probably got the idea here, but we've got a ridge around here, we've got low pressure up here, that's with the jet stream of course. The jet stream is a little bit to the north of the country doing something like that. But again, it's another fairly Atlantic-driven autumn and mild autumn. Could be dry in the south, a little bit wetter up in the north. JMA next. Of course, I did the breakdown month by month back last weekend, so you did see these charts last weekend on a month-by-month basis. I haven't got time to go through them all on a month-by-month basis for this update, so I'm just going to show you the 3 monthly anomalies. If you saw last Sunday's video based on these charts, you'll know that the JMA is going for quite an unsettled and fairly coolish early and middle part of the autumn. I mean, it turns significantly warmer in November, and we get high pressure building up from the Azores. Anyway, the 3 monthly anomaly, and if you haven't seen that video, by the way, you can find it on the catch up page at GasOViz. The 3 monthly anomaly in terms of 500 millibar heights looks like this. We're up in the top right hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it. So we've got below average heights to the northwest, above average heights to the southwest, and the jet streams coming through the country like that. I have to say there is a trend already emerging here with the 3 models that we've looked at so far. It means that the temperature anomaly is coming out a little bit cooler than average in the north, a bit above average in the south. Remember though, the temperatures that we have in November are significantly, forecast to be significantly warmer than average, and that offsets maybe a cooler, particularly October, that the model is seeing. In terms of precipitation, that's generally coming out above average for the autumn. So it's Atlantic driven again. We can see this by the wind arrows. If you scroll down here, you can see where the mean wind direction is predicted to be from this autumn, and generally coming out west, southwesterly. So once again, we have a pattern here of an Atlantic driven autumn, also mild autumn, particularly for the south, less so perhaps for the north, and less so particularly in the early middle part of the autumn, but also above average precipitation with those westerlies. Definite trends emerging. The CanIP model next. Of course, we looked at this earlier in the month as well when we did CanIP Saturday. I'm going to show you the 3 monthly mean sea level pressure anomaly for the autumn. This is covering September to November 2016. It's low pressure look to the north. We've got high pressure being hinted at out to west-southwest. And look at that, the jet stream is coming through the country. What does that do for the temperatures? They're coming out generally a little bit closer to average, so not quite so mild perhaps with this particular model, but certainly nothing cold being suggested there. Precipitation also is coming out closer to average, so no great signal really for temperature or precipitation from the CanIP model. The sea level pressure anomaly does hint, I think, at a little bit of an Atlantic driven type pattern for this autumn. Hugh van der Doel next, our good friend Hugh. Now these are always a little bit different. These are not, these haven't been generated by a computer model. What's happened here is that they are analog based forecasts. So Hugh van der Doel looked at the sea surface temperature anomalies across the world in July, and then from those sea surface temperature anomalies created an analog forecast going forward, and this is what he's come up with for the autumn. So this is covering the full autumn period, 500 millibar heights, generally above average to the north, interestingly, but also extending down into western parts of Europe, and we've got a trough of low pressure in the Atlantic. So there is a little bit of northern blocking being signalled here, but we're on the warm side of it, if you like. So the jet stream is doing something a bit like that, and then you go over here, and the jet stream is doing something a bit like that. So what it means, essentially, is that we're going to have a fairly warm and dry autumn if it comes off. So temperature anomalies are coming out significantly warmer than average because we're on the warm side of a blocking. Notice it is significantly cooler across Scandinavia, Northeast Europe, and back into Russia. That's because they find themselves on the cold side blocking. There is northern blocking there. If Hugh van der Doel is right this autumn, it just so happens that the jet stream does something like this and get placed onto the warm side of the jet stream, onto the warm side of the blocking, and then those areas to the east northeast of us are on the cold side of the jet stream and the blocking. So warmer than average autumn being suggested by Hugh van der Doel's analogues. The precipitation anomaly, now that's changed a little bit compared to last month, because last month it's going for a significantly drier autumn. This month it's much closer to average. Not a strong signal either way, but I think it has shifted more towards the wetter side of things, interestingly, particularly so for the south. But I think overall, in terms of that height anomaly, I would expect that to be generally quite a dry autumn. Although, of course, with time, this trough in the Atlantic will probably be getting stronger, being powered by the jet stream, being powered by just the difference in temperature between the tropics down here and the polar region up here. That is what fuels cyclogenesis, really, around Greenland and down into Newfoundland. I would have thought as time goes by through the autumn, that trough gets deeper and more intense. So eventually it could produce a bit of an Atlantic onslaught. But it's not a cold pattern that Hugh is seeing there by any means. CFS V2 next. These are 700 millibar height anomalies from CFS model. And here we go again, low pressure being placed in terms of 700 millibar heights around Greenland, Iceland. We've got a ridge from the Azores extending into Spain and Portugal. The jet stream is coming through the gap there, through the UK. So once more, we're off and running. It's Atlantic driven pattern. It's high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north, rain bands coming in across the country, also probably quite strong winds as well. The temperature anomaly, no great signal. It's warmer than average up in the northeast. For central western parts of Europe, actually it's closer to average. Of course, with an Atlantic-driven pattern in September, that's probably going to be fairly coolish, actually. By November, that could be very mild. So that could be the reason that, even at this late stage, the model is struggling to get a temperature signal for western and central parts of Europe. The precipitation anomaly is coming out wetter than average through the UK, as it is for most of Northern Europe, actually. So you can see that we've got high pressure with dry than average precipitation anomalies to the south, and then we've got the wet than average precipitation anomalies to the north, and we know that the jet stream is probably doing something like that. I would have thought that's a fairly Atlantic driven and fairly mild, or certainly not overly cold autumn being signalled there. The next model is the experimental model from NASA. These are 500 millibar height anomalies for the autumn of 2016. Sorry, I was just taking a bit of back there by what model is doing. Actually, it's placing a big area of above average heights in the central part of the Atlantic. And then here, it all looks rather odd, but you would have thought that's a trough, really. I did have a look at this earlier, but I didn't really notice this when I was getting the charts up. So the jet stream is probably implied to be doing something a bit like that. You would have thought that's quite a cool and unsettled pattern there that the model is going for this autumn. But actually, the temperature anomaly is coming out significantly warmer than average. Let's check the scale, and there it is. It's above average. It's only around a degree above average, but of course, in terms of these anomalies, that's a fairly big anomaly. So it is going for a warmer than average autumn, as are most of these models. The precipitation anomaly is generally average, but does seem to be a bit wetter than average in the north. So it's a rather odd one, the NASA model, quite what it's doing there. It isn't like the classic pattern that we've been looking at throughout most of these models. Most of these models are wanting to place the ridge around here and then low pressure up here, have the jet stream come through rather like that. The NASA model is a little bit different because it's aligning things slightly differently. So the ridge is further north and west in the Atlantic, in that kind of area, which implies there's probably a trough through there, and the jet stream does something like that. So I would have thought that would be a little bit cooler, actually, and possibly quite wet for the autumn. Very subtle differences, but it is a difference compared to some of the charts and models that we've been looking at. We're coming towards the end now, just this model and the UK Met to go. So this is from the Jamstec IOD. This is the temperature anomaly from Jamstec, and still solidly warmer than average. It's been the case with this model throughout these updates. It's always been going for warmer than average autumn. It's still going for it. We're not alone. Look how warm it is across most parts of the Northern Hemisphere, actually. Most parts of Europe and Eurasia, significantly warmer than average. Notice Africa seems to be generally warm. Australia is warm. Over towards here, we've got China, India, all looking very warm. America, Canada is looking warm. Much of South America is looking warm as well. So it looks like it's warming on steroids, really, that. But for us, we can say that we are significantly warmer than average, as is most parts of Europe as well. So a milder than average autumn is being predicted there. In terms of the precipitation anomaly, that is coming out drier than average. So you would have assumed what's happening is that there's a ridge somewhere around here, and then the jet stream doing something a bit like that. So a warmer, drier than average autumn being predicted, as has been the case throughout these updates from Jamstec IOD. And then finally, the UK Met Office GLOW-C 5 model. Now, this was the one model that's a little bit different last month because it implied a rather cooler pattern for the autumn. It wanted to align things northwest to southeast with the jet stream, which would still give us an Atlantic-driven autumn, but it was significantly cooler. That's reversed quite a lot for this month's update. So now the UK Met is in line. We've got above average heights, or above average pressure, as this is mean sea level pressure anomaly. Above average pressure to the south, low pressure up to the north. The jet stream is doing something like that. So it implies, again, Atlantic driven, driest conditions to the southeast, wettest conditions to the north and the west. Let's have a look at the temperature anomaly. That is coming out milder than average. So all models here have been in agreement. Haven't seen one model that has gone for colder than average autumn. Bearing in mind we haven't had APEC, haven't had the Beijing Climate Centre, but a very, very clear and strong trend here for the autumn for temperatures to be milder than average. Precipitation is coming out wetter than average, so it's still going wet for this autumn, just aligning things differently, which means instead of being quite cool with the temperatures, actually we come out fairly mild, maybe even, could say, a little bit on the warm side. So that's it. That's all the models that we can look at. As I say, we haven't had the APEC, we haven't had Beijing Climate Centre. If we get the BCC before I do the autumn forecast next week, then I'll include it very quickly in next week's video. And of course, the autumn forecast. But a really, really strong signal here from all of these models for an Atlantic-driven autumn. Again, they are differing a little bit in terms of whether it's really wet autumn or whether actually it's a fairly dry autumn. So there is a bit of a difference between how strong the Azores high is going to be and where its exact position is. If it is ridging up over us, then it will be a drier autumn. If it's down around Spain or back in the Azores, then it's likely, particularly with time, to become wetter and more unsettled. But they're all in agreement for an Atlantic-driven autumn. They're all, therefore, in agreement to have a milder than average autumn, and they all hint, certainly, that we could be in for quite a bit of rain in the north, perhaps less so down in the south. Now, what I've got to do is put these models, of course, just because we've got a strong consensus doesn't mean they're right by any means. They could all be got consensus, but it's wrong. So what I'm going to do next week is put the seasonal models with the analogues that we've been looking at, and they then combine to create the autumn 2016 forecast, and that will be with you next weekend, and you'll be able to see what Gavsov is predicting for the autumn of 2016. Right, that's it for now. How long have I been talking for? Just over 20 minutes, so not too bad. Don't forget, later on this afternoon, we are showing you my interpretation of the ECMWF seasonal model for the winter of 2016-2017. That'll be very, very interesting and something really different for Gavsov. It's never done that before, so you'll be able to see that later on today. Right, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.